Yeah, I could tell you, spend the time on the prep, because once you crack a leak, it could be maddening. I've got more than one pour that ended up all over my garage floor. My garage floor is just a bunch of spilled epoxy everywhere. I've made mistakes. I poured too much. If you pour too much, your epoxy will heat up and bubble. There's a reaction that occurs with it. I built a little cutting board to look like a brick wall. And I was like, oh, there's this little, and I use epoxy for what was like going to be the mortar between. And I had stuck it on with double-sided tape, which was fine. I'd used it before, but then I poured too much epoxy on it. And I tried to take a shortcut. So Tyvek's tape is expensive. That is true. You can use other materials. I've used clear packing tape. I've used red sheathing tape. You can use other materials, but just make sure you really prep it up right and don't have any mistakes. The Tyvek tape does a good job. In that particular pour, I had used a red sheathing tape, and when it heated up, the tape, and I had used that, I didn't silicone like I'll teach you to do here. I had taped up my edges, which up to that point had been successful, but because I overpoured, the heat got too hot, my pieces started floating up from the sticky tape I had, and then it melted my the red sheathing tape at the seams and started just to leak out everywhere. And I had some metal tape like they use for HVAC tape, and I'm trying to slap it on, because I've used that before as well. But after that resin starts going, it's hard to stick a liquid. The HVAC tape for me will crack on me when you're turning it, because it's that aluminum. I think it's what they make out of it. It's some sort of metal, but when you hit a corner like that, it's easy to pop your finger through it or something. It just gets kind of maddening. It's $20 a roll roughly. Resin's $100+ a gallon though, so I mean. It's an ounce of prevention for a pound of cure kind of deal, and I've had to learn the hard way. And I'm sure I'll learn the hard way again. I'm sure I'll try and find to take some shortcut and stuff, but you always pay for your education one way or the other, you know? So this is real teal in here. We will pour a casting of resin just on top to finish it off. Like I was saying, I'm sorry, did I say casting? Yeah. Countertop resin on top, because there's a casting resin here so that we have a hardener. So this we will not be able to finish or demold till tomorrow. Is there anybody not going to be here tomorrow? And then what we'll do from there, after we do it, we'll let it harden out and we'll drop it in. We'll do that today, put it in there, and we'll be able to rock and roll on it tomorrow night. I've got the flattening jig over here that you guys have seen. That thing is awesome, and it's a lot of fun. Makes a ton of sawdust. So if you are in your garage doing this, just be aware it will make mountains. I mean, if you're just taking an 1/8 of an inch off, you're like, no big deal. I mean, this was the first river table I ever built. It's a little coffee table. So I love it, and I've learned a lot of things from it. I can tell you what I like about it, and I can tell you what I hate about it. It is art, so it's all subjective. I wanted to go with a dark resin that you couldn't see through on this one. So I did, and I did want some metallics in here. Now, everybody loves the swirl patterns, right? When you're working with casting, make sure you've got your enough time to babysit your project. What happens with it is, because of the long open time, which is very, very beneficial, and you can't pour deep without that particular epoxy is designed to slowly set up over time. Otherwise, it will overheat, crack, ruin your project, okay? So it's designed to be a very, very slow set. Like, plan on, normally I wouldn't even touch that for a week. I poured it on Saturday for this class, and it's Doug's fault. Where's Doug? Doug was late coming from California begging me he wanted to be in on it, so we did it. But anyway, so this was my first one I built with the patterns. So you'll put the patterns in, and if you walk away and then just let it set, they'll settle back out because the epoxy's not setting up, right? I like to put them in at first just to get an idea of how my metallics will look and start to think about what swirls I want, that kind of stuff. But the key to that is to wait and then hit it as it starts to get thick, almost like a paste, like a toothpaste is the way I would describe it. The first couple of times you do it, you think you've just ruined your project. It's that thick. But once it's at that point and you put your metallics in, it'll actually kind of crest up and stay there. and it takes like a minute or so, you'll see it slowly settling back out. So